Hello and welcome back to another FPL captaincy video. This week we're taking a look at game week 13, and if you have looked at the fixture list already, you would have already seen Man City are playing against Liverpool this week, so it does make it a lot more difficult when trying to choose a captaincy because you cannot default straight away at least to Mohamed Salah or Erling Haaland. So we are going to take a look at it in a little minute. Last week we did pick Mohamed Salah against Southampton, and thankfully we made up for that Son captaincy in game week 11 with Salah getting 26 points, which was ideal. So again, like I mentioned, still a pretty decent run apart from those three Haaland fixtures from game week 6 to game week 8. We are actually doing pretty well for our captaincies this season. So 4 more picks for this week. Let's take a look and see who they are. So this week, as always, we have Salah and Haaland. Even though they do have a difficult fixture against each other, they are always having to be in consideration for captaincy. We've also added in here Bukayo Saka and Cole Palmer as well. Cole Palmer with a home fixture against Aston Villa, and Saka has an away fixture against West Ham. So off the bat, all fairly difficult opponents. No one's playing against relegation teams, no one's playing against teams right down at the bottom of the table. On paper, the worst one is probably West Ham, but it is still an away fixture that you do have to consider. So we've got predicted points, we've got XG, we've got chances conceded and everything. So let's take a look and see. Predicted points are very, very much lower than they always are. As I just mentioned, it is a lot more difficult fixtures for our main captaincy picks. So yeah, it's basically taking up half the screen for our highest predicted points, and it is going to go to Mo Salah this week with 7.6 on Fantasy Football Hub. However, FPL Team has him down at 5.4, which puts him at third behind Saka and Palmer. And for the first time ever, Haaland is actually lowest for predicted points this week, and he is also lowest on both websites. 6.3 on Fantasy Football Hub and 4.5 on FPL Team, which is one of the lowest that we have seen for really anyone, never mind just Erling Haaland for predicted points. Now, if you're looking at averages, obviously Salah has low on FPL Team but high on Fantasy Football Hub. The one on average who is the highest this week is going to be Cole Palmer. He has 7.2 on Fantasy Football Hub and 6.5 on FPL Team. He is the highest for FPL Team by a fair margin as well, over a point more than Saka predicted, which is definitely something to keep an eye on. This is how our XG stats and everything else are looking by game week 12. For expected minutes, this week we do basically have 4 90-minute men, no reasoning for any sort of rest or early substitutions, the only one being Saka 88, which isn't really, going to make a huge difference. In terms of XG, as you can see, Haaland still leads the way, but comparing his XG to how he got on in the first couple of game weeks, I think we were at a point where he had 10 goals and an XG of 4. Now we're at an XG of 12 and he only has 12 goals. So he is finally, his XG's finally caught up with his actual goals. Potentially with Kevin De Bruyne back in the squad, we could see him start to outperform that again. Not this week, I don't think, with Liverpool being the best defence and it being an away fixture for Haaland, but it is obviously something to keep in mind. For expected assists, it is Saka who leads the way, really to no one's surprise at 3.7. He still has the 8 assists as well this season, which puts him at 12 total returns in the first 12 games, which, averaging 1 return per match is nothing to, look away from. That is a very, very good match. And again, as I mentioned, he does have what you would say is probably the easiest fixture of the 4 players. Debatable, I guess, with Cole Palmer with the home fixture against Aston Villa. But Saka's definitely on top form and definitely should be considered for captaincy. And even when you look at the return chances, all 4 of our players are extremely close. Salah and Palmer both on 64%, joint with each other, followed by Saka on 62%, and then they're followed again by Erling Haaland on 60%. So for a change, it actually looks as though Haaland is the worst of the 4 picks, which very rarely happens. But again, yeah, just more to consider for your captaincy, and also more to consider if you do still own Haaland. Do you want to keep him at the price he is when, as you can see, there's 3 midfielders who have a lot better chances of doing well than he does? Now moving on to odds, and it's actually Cole Palmer this week who has the highest chance of scoring not only 1 goal but also 2 goals as well, but it is very, very close. Erling Haaland actually just edges out Salah as well for goal scoring odds, which does tend to happen because Haaland, no matter what, always has a very high or very low odds of scoring at 41% chance. So he just edges out Salah, but they are matched for the same 10% to score 2 or more goals, whereas Palmer is at 11, so just edging it out there. In terms of clean sheet odds though, that's where it does, disperse a little bit. It is Saka or Arsenal with the most chance of scoring, West Ham with the lowest chance of a clean sheet at only 14%. Once again, Palmer looking like a really nice option. Chelsea against Aston Villa, it's Aston Villa with only a 15% chance, so very close to Saka, very close to edging it. Then when we look at Salah against Man City only have an 18% chance of keeping a clean sheet, so very, very low, considering the likes of West Ham and Villa you wouldn't consider to have, fairly solid defences. They're not actually that much lower than Man City to keep a clean sheet, and it does kind of show you the kind of form that Liverpool and also Salah are on right now, with only an 18% chance of a clean sheet. Liverpool, on the other hand, have a much, much higher chance. They're at 26% for a clean sheet, which is almost double the likes of West Ham and Villa. So it just makes Haaland look worse and worse an option as we look at it. Usually Haaland for the odds is well above everyone else, and I think every single video so far Haaland has been the highest odds to score. But it is surprising, and it just kind of tells you how poor Man City have been, and obviously Haaland has been struggling in recent weeks as well. But it is Palmer who does take it this week, looking like a really good option. Highest chance of scoring 1 goal and 2 goals as well. Moving on to set pieces is also where Palmer takes the advantage. He obviously has all set pieces on corners, on free kicks, on penalties. Saka as well, he does take a lot of the set pieces. He's on some corners, he does take free kicks, he's also on penalties. Again, Odegaard is now back, so he could potentially take some of those off of him. We have seen it happen before where Odegaard's took penalties over Saka. Saka is still labelled as the main penalty taker though, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. But it's definitely something that, wouldn't be surprising if it did happen. Obviously, Haaland and Salah, as always, both on penalties. I always mention this every single week. Haaland listed as a free kick taker, but he's like 4th down the pecking line. Obviously, we had Champions League and Europa League and Conference League games this week, which 3 of our players have played in. Obviously, Chelsea played against Heidenheim Thursday night, in which Cole Palmer isn't involved in the Conference League squad, so he does get the full week's rest when there is European games, so definitely a big advantage there. Salah obviously playing against Real Madrid. They played on Wednesday, so Salah is getting a little bit less rest than the likes of Erling Haaland, and obviously with it being a Real Madrid game, a huge game, which is something to keep in mind. Haaland, on the other hand, playing against Feyenoord, he did play I believe he played the 90 minutes in a terrible 3-3 draw for Man City after being 3-0 up. But he's getting 4 days rest. They also play on Sunday, of course, playing against Liverpool. So an extra day for Erling Haaland there. Saka and Arsenal also played on Tuesday, but they do play on Saturday. They are the only team here to play on Saturday, so it is only a 3 days rest for them. Then obviously with Cole Palmer, it is a full week due to not playing in the Conference League. So looking at each of our opponents' defences, we do have a lot of solid defences as we have expected. You can see with, like the likes of Haaland playing against Liverpool, Liverpool are the best defence so far in the league, with only 10.6 expected goals conceded and only 8 actual goals conceded, which is so much less than everyone else on this list. Everyone else has over double that, with Man City conceding 17 and only being the 11th best defence, or the 11th worst defence, so they are sitting about mid-table, which you never really see with City, but they have a 15.5 expected goals conceded, so it is something to keep in mind, because you can see Aston Villa down the bottom are at 15.1 and they're the 16th, so the 5th best defence, so it is still very close between the likes of Man City and Aston Villa, even though there is 4 teams in between them. It's very close, all of them with about 15 expected goals conceded. So within 1 week, City could shoot themselves back up to the 4th or 5th best defence. And when you're trying to, like find a difference and like find a weakness in the defences, there's not really much to separate with Aston Villa and City. With West Ham, however, 6th worst defence in the league, 19.6 expected goals conceded, and obviously only conceded 19, which is roughly the same as what 5th best in the fifth best defence in the league Aston Villa have. So, not doing too badly. When we're looking at the chances conceded, is where I actually really like Saka. 47 chances down the right, which is a lot more than everyone else on this list. And obviously with West Ham being the weakest defence here as well, it does really give Saka a big advantage. Obviously a very popular captaincy this week in Mo Salah. Only 19 chances conceded down that side for Man City, despite not being one of the best defences so far this season. So it's definitely, a factor that you do have to consider. With Haaland, 50 chances down the middle for Liverpool, which again is the lowest on this list. It does seem like a lot, but every team concedes more chances down the middle than everywhere else. But Cole Palmer, on the other hand, 56 chances down the middle for obviously playing through the middle for Chelsea. It is the most chances conceded positionally. So obviously Salah, 19, where he plays. For Haaland, it's 50. For Saka, it's 47. For Palmer, it's 56. So I would argue once again, Palmer does take it a little bit here. Obviously with the chances conceded down the middle, it is a lot more favoured towards strikers. Palmer obviously plays a little bit far behind, so you can't fully consider that or fully let that make a decision for you. But at the end of the day, with everything being said on top of that, I still think Cole Palmer is going to be the best captaincy this week, and it could be a little bit of a, I think in terms of the FPL community, it is a bit of a differential, because I'm seeing a lot of people talking about going for Salah this week. For me, I think Palmer just looks a little bit better. He's got the highest expected points overall on average between our two websites. He has the highest return chance, obviously the highest goal chance as well, on all set pieces where he has the advantage over everyone else. The most rest, no midweek game whatsoever, and obviously the best chances positionally. So for me, I think Palmer does clearly take it this week for game week 13. Hopefully he can, do the same as we've seen earlier in the season, bag 3-4 goals, and he can do really well for us. So Palmer is going to be the pick for this week. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree, or are you thinking maybe a Salah instead? Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.